to be honest, kind of coming into Wake Forest for the first time, I was a little worried that it was going to be almost too boring for a newspaper job. You know, where I come from before, it had higher crime rates, for example, and a lot of political infighting, you know, a lot of intrigue. Wake Forest has not been slow. There's always something going on here.
Hi, I'm Bill Crabtree. Welcome to Wake Forest Perspectives. We're going to spend the next few minutes with the editor at the Wake Weekly, Shawn Taylor. Shawn, thanks for being here.
My pleasure.
Shawn, it's interesting. We were talking before we started taping that this is sort of a role reversal.
Yes.
Normally when we converse, you're asking the questions. Today is my lucky day. I get to ask the questions. So thanks again for being here. Shawn, we talked earlier, you were a reporter in Sanford for a while, You did some work in Statesville, you came to Wake Forest just about 2 years ago. How does Wake Forest differ from the other communities you've worked?
Where I've been before, you know, Sanford, Iredell County, they were more rural, certainly. Coming into a triangle community is a very different pace. And to be honest, kind of coming into Wake Forest for the first time, I was a little worried that it was going to be almost too boring for a newspaper job. You know, where I come from before, it had higher crime rates, for example, and a lot of political infighting, you know, a lot of intrigue. Wake Forest has not been slow. There's always something going on here. And it's a great community. It's really close. There's been a lot of just people helping other people, giving back, coming together, telling their stories in such an inspiring and really unique way. It's something that it's been remarkable, truly, to be a part of this community and to work at the Wake Weekly and share in all of those stories.
I know the Statesville newspaper is a daily newspaper, and certainly the Wake Weekly is a weekly newspaper. What's the difference between working for a daily newspaper and a weekly?
Deadlines. You know, absolutely. The pace is completely different, and so at a weekly newspaper, you have a little bit more of, I guess, a luxury to explore, try new things, do some features, really dig down into the heart of a story before you bring it to print. Whereas in a daily setting, you know, you have an edition every day, you have a deadline every afternoon, and so you have an opportunity to maybe write smaller, you know, breaking news story pieces and follow up on those throughout the week. Whereas, you know, here at the Wake Weekly, we break that news online, and we're a 24-hour news publication. We have stories fresh daily on wakeweekly.com. But it's the print edition that eventually comes out on Thursday. We have an opportunity to refine those stories and really make them, you know, nice, polished, with a lot of great quotes and community reactions. You know, it's a luxury to kind of have that time frame, that deadline.
Sure. Now, the Wake Weekly, I think about 2 years ago, changed ownership and was purchased by the Wilson Daily Times.
Yes.
How have things changed over the past 2 years?
I know that people have seen a lot of changes in the Wake Weekly over the last couple of years, over the last, you know, I'm sure decades. The Allen family owned this paper for decades, right? And they did a tremendous job. It is a world-class newspaper that they brought and really cultivated here for Wake Forest. Looking back at the archives that we have, I almost wish I could be, you know, back in that newsroom, you know, 20 years ago, a bustling newsroom with under, you know, Bob Allen, who sadly passed recently. But what I want people to know is that the Wake Weekly, we're still locally owned by a small company. The Wilson Times Company is not, you know, a Lee Enterprises or one of those big newspaper chains that, you know, strips local news content from the local newspapers and just plug it with, you know, filler national chain stuff. We are still here in Wake Forest. Our newsroom is here. Our office is, you know, right smack in front of Town Hall. And so, you know, we are a local company. We are a small company. The Wilson Times is one of 2 remaining family-owned daily newspapers in North Carolina. That has a tremendous difference, I think, and we are, when you're talking about changes in the newspaper, The changes that you're seeing are probably the result of just changes to the industry as a whole, as we're pivoting to online, as we are trying to catch up really with this digital revolution and rethink about how we can best address our mission to journalism, to our readers, and bring them the important news, the independent coverage that they rely on. In a way that is within the scope and framework of today's business realities. And so there have been changes, a lot more online. Like I said, we are now a 24-hour news publication on wakeweekly.com, and we are kind of restructuring the way that we think about how we report about crime and how we report about listing crime arrests and listing different government meetings. We have different roundups that we have, and that's all designed and packaged in a way to really address this drive for 24-hour access to news, and really an expectation that our readers have of high quality at the Wake Weekly.
I think something important that you mentioned about being a local newspaper, you guys are really committed to the community, no question about it. And so I know something that's important to you is making sure that people understand how they can get their news and their events and their photos in the paper. Can you talk a little bit about that process?
There is no Wake Weekly without the readers, without our community, without Wake Forest. To really partner with us and share with us their stories, and that includes submitting news stories that you think that deserve to be in the Wake Weekly, giving us photos of events and awards that you and your family or your colleagues have received. We're happy to publish those. We publish each week a listing. It's called Community Briefs. It's just a section of news notices and events. It's almost like a community calendar, and that's a free public service. There's no charge to email me at Shawn@wakeweekly.com. I'll get that, your local event, tell me when and where it's happening, and I'll let our readers know. Our opinion page, when people say, like, oh, your opinion page is too far left, your opinion page is too far right. I hear it both ways. Sure. But my response is always, well, the opinion content that is in the Wake Weekly is all submitted. And so if you feel that there is a voice missing from our opinion page, it's up to you to fill that gap. We welcome letters to the editor, and we publish columns and op-eds from local voices. And so if there's an opinion that you want to share with others, please let me know. I'm happy to get your voice onto the opinion page and do things like that. So everything that we do is community focused, and it requires that relationship, two-way communication with the readers, with the community, in order to produce the Wake Weekly at the end of the week.
When you talk about a community focus, certainly we're still in the midst of the COVID pandemic. Mm-hmm. How has the newspaper's efforts and focus changed in response to COVID?
I think you made the comment earlier before we started recording that this year has been upside down, and it has absolutely been upside down. The pandemic has affected the newspaper kind of in two ways. One, we have, as any local business can tell you, we've seen a decline in revenues. Our advertisers in particular, who are small businesses themselves, have been hit by this pandemic, and as such, we've seen a decline in advertising that we rely on to kind of bring the paper to our readers every week. And so for a stretch of a couple months there at the beginning, in spring, early summer, we were trying to figure out how to meet our deadlines, do everything that we have to do as an important, journalistic institution within that kind of framework that the pandemic was just such a challenge. And kind of the second side of that is there was so much news. I mean, there is still so much news. The pandemic is possibly, it's the news event of the year, certainly. Mm-hmm. It's the decade's only, 9 months old, but might very well be the news event of the decade. And from schools closing and reopening to case counts and deaths, to how businesses are impacted, to community stories about how neighbors and business owners are giving back and helping each other and supporting each other in the face of job loss and hunger. There are just such a tremendous amount of news that we in the newsroom are, everywhere we look, writing about, running to, ask people questions, ask them, how are you impacted by this pandemic, and what do you want people to know about what kind of assistance do you need? What are you doing to help? I mean, there are so many stories, so many inspiring, so many heartbreaking stories out of this pandemic that it has been a very, very busy time in the Wake Weekly newsroom, and it's hopefully the worst is behind us with that. I mean, we're all looking for that light at the end of this tunnel, but we're jogging alongside this story, and we'll continue to bring the latest.
Shawn, you mentioned the impact that COVID has had on local businesses. I know you guys have a campaign that's underway to help and support local business. Talk about that.
Yeah, so within the first month of the shutdown, the statewide shutdown on businesses and schools, the Wake Weekly came out with an initiative, Spend Local Wake. We use the hashtag Spend Local Wake, and it's really an initiative encouraging local residents, our readers, to, whenever possible, spend their dollars locally, patronize a locally owned small business, a retail establishment. If you need your car to be serviced, find a local small business owner who really is depending on those dollars and may not survive otherwise. And so, part of that is, yes, we depend on these small businesses ourselves as advertisers, and if they're not here, what are we going to do? But larger than that, I think it's really a community, it's something that we need to do as our neighbors, as a good neighbor here in Wake Forest and in Wake County, to encourage our readers to think about the way that their dollars circulate within the local economy. And so we've been putting out advertising campaigns. Our team here in Wake Forest has been kind of focused, especially early on in the pandemic, about that campaign. And we have been working on a video featuring local businesses. There was a bit of a delay in getting that out just because of the pandemic and the difficulties in meeting face to face in a situation like we are today. But we hope to bring that back and really highlight what local businesses are doing, ways that you can still patronize local businesses. If you go to our website, wakeweekly.com, there is a listing of several locally owned restaurants and businesses, and a list of what's open for takeout, what's open for curbside pickup. You can go there and see how you can still patronize these businesses. And if you are a local business owner, that's a free form to fill out. Just go on and submit your information, and our readers have access to that.
Another way you guys have been doing this forever, the best of the best.
Yes.
What's the status of best of the best?
It's still happening. There are best businesses out there that are the best of the best, and we will be recognizing them. Voting is still underway. I don't know when this video is going live, so it's ending soon, but later this month, we will have our annual Best of the Best award ceremony. It's going to be a drive-in event this year. People can either tune in virtually, or they can drive their cars to the event location and tune in their radios to listen as we announce the winners of the best of the best. But it's still on, and it's a big part of what we do, and it's a big way that we encourage our readers to pay attention to the businesses, the small businesses here in Wake Forest.
But all of the winners will be posted on your website. Yes. And in the print edition as well.
Yes, there will be a print edition special section in October that will list every winner and photos from the event as well.
Shawn, as we start to wrap things up, we're heading toward a presidential election, and so what are you guys doing at the Wake Weekly to encourage people to get out and vote?
I told you it's not a slow time for news. Election 2020, it's on everyone's minds, and certainly ours as well. Just real recently, we launched a landing page on our website. I think it's wakeweekly.com/election-2020 that has all our news coverage for the upcoming election, as well as opinion content and whatnot. So that's a landing page that people can go to keep up with everything that we're doing. As a journalist, as a news editor, I try and stay as nonpartisan as I possibly can. But I'm always happy to really encourage people to get out, have their voices heard, cast their ballots, and this year is no exception. when I look, when we're reporting on election returns, you see that percentage of people who ended up casting their ballots, around 40% or something, which is always kind of disheartening. If you're not voting, your voice is not being heard, and people who say that, my vote doesn't count, it won't change anything. Well, yes, it does. I mean, the politicians who do get elected, they look at how closely they won. I mean, if it's a big margin or not, if they won narrowly, that's going to impact how they vote and what actions they take while in office. So every vote does matter. And here in North Carolina, we, for better or worse, live in a very purple state. And so we don't know how the biggest races at the top of the ballot are going to fall. And so your voice does matter. Mm-hmm. And local races, which impact you in so many ways. I mean, they determine, we have school board races here in Wake County on the ballot this November. And we've all seen just how important school boards are during this pandemic when they're making decisions about which students do get to learn in the classroom. How do students learn remotely? What resources are given to teachers? That's been such a big part of the school board this year, and those seats are up for election. So what we're doing at the Wake Weekly, in addition to all of our normal election coverage, we're of course doing surveys with the local candidates again this year. That has started to roll out online, starting with the school board races here in District 1 of the Wake County Board of Education. And we will be looking also at surveys with candidates from the North Carolina General Assembly, Senate and House of Representatives. And so I hope people tune in and read that and give careful consideration to what name they're going to check on their ballot this year. Hopefully they do vote. I encourage everyone, please vote. It's so important. We will continue to give election results. I know voting is very confusing this year with mail-in voting, absentee voting, how to return your ballot. We're going to have all of that broken down online and in print, telling people what they need to know to make sure that their vote does count.
So Shawn, tell us that website address again, because It sounds like it's going to be a fantastic resource as we approach election.
It's wakeweekly.com/election-2020.
Okay, sounds good. Shawn, we like to close every program by asking our guests to complete this sentence. If not for Wake Forest, what?
If not for Wake Forest, there wouldn't be a Wake Weekly. And that seems kind of obvious, but it really needs to be stated that without this community, like I said before, the end product that we put out at the end of the week, the physical print Wake Weekly, that could not exist without the relationship our newsroom has with the citizens here in Wake Forest. It's a two-way partnership. We rely on that communication. We rely on the relationships our reporters, our sports writers, our advertisers have with the sources, with the business owners, with the coaches and players and politicians, the doctors, the parents, everyone in this community who talks to us, who reads our newspaper, who send events and notices and photos and story ideas and letters to the editor. All of that creates at the end of the week a product that is really a true partnership between the newsroom and this community. And we could not do it without you guys, and we really are relying on that continued partnership to continue to get the Wake Weekly out each week.
Well, Shawn, we definitely appreciate you guys and what you do. We certainly appreciate the relationship that the town has with the Wake Weekly, and we wish you guys the best as you continue moving forward. So thanks for being here today.
Absolutely. Thank you, Bill.
And thank you for watching Wake Forest Perspectives. We'll see you next week.